Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to apply a vinyl bald cap. This isn't about the painting of the bald cap, it's just the application process. I'm going to be using a hair gel to completely flatten Bill's hair. The one I'm using is by Shockwaves, but you can use any hair gel you like. I'm squeezing some onto the top of Bill's head and I'm going to use a comb to work the hair backwards and forwards so it's completely covered in the gel. If you've got quite long hair, you've got two options. You can either completely smother your hair in gel and wrap it around in a swirl till it's completely flat or as flat as you can get it. The other option is when your hair's completely covered in the gel, you create small pin curls all over to keep your hair nice and flat. Only use hair gel, don't use any pins to secure the hair, otherwise you'll pierce the bald cap. Depending on the character that you're creating, I have been able to plait the hair in the past down the back of the neck, and this has been hidden by a collar. So it's definitely worth thinking about your character and its costume before your bald cap application. Once I've used the comb to completely smother all the hair in the gel, I then go over it with my hands to flatten it, and I use a hairdryer at the same time just to manipulate the hair in that direction. You want the hair to be completely dry or as dry as possible so that the bald cap doesn't touch the gel, but I usually find if the model helps you to apply the bald cap, you can stretch it over so it doesn't touch the gel. Now it's time for the vinyl bald cap. This one's from the Makeup Armoury and it's a flesh coloured one. My favourite bald caps are vinyl because they're so thin and give you the most realistic finish. So these ones have got a little bit of a peak at the front so you get an idea of roughly where the centre of the bald cap should be. They come in one size and you can get flesh coloured or you can just get a clear semi-translucent one. Before applying the bald cap, I've cleansed Bill's skin with witch hazel to remove any oils. I always get my model to place their fingers on the front of their head, and this is going to help me to hook the front of the bald cap over their fingers so that when I apply it, it doesn't get coated in the hair gel, and then I can stretch the remaining bald cap over the back of the head. If you're looking to use a flesh tone bald cap so that the painting is less intense for yourself, then be sure to pull the bald cap forward enough that the flesh tone starts at the hairline. I don't need it to be flesh toned for the look that I'm going to be doing after this tutorial. I want the edges to be as thin as possible, so I'm simply placing it just above Bill's eyebrows. Then I just work my way around, stretching the bald cap down the head, and then use my hands just to smooth over the hair to make sure everything's nice and flat. Some people like to give their bald cap a trim first. I like to glue mine before trimming, and I always glue this small section at the front of the forehead, and then I do the nape of the neck. The glue I'm using is called pros-aide. This is a water-based adhesive. It's water resistant, non-toxic, and it's great for use on those with sensitive skin. So I'm rolling back the bald cap and I'm using a Q-tip or cotton bud to apply the pros-aide to the very centre of the forehead. Definitely do not use your makeup brushes because this will ruin them. Use a cotton bud because that can be thrown away. Smooth it over the skin so there's no visible blobs, and then wait for it to go completely opaque. It goes off pretty quick, but you can use a hairdryer if you're impatient. You can see when the glue's completely dry that it's ready, and you can pick up the bald cap and lay it over the top of the glue. Now you do need to be very careful because vinyl bald caps can tear very easily. You may have noticed that I put a tiny amount of pros-aide on the underside of the bald cap. This isn't a necessary step, it's just something I've always done because I like to make sure the front is completely secure. At the nape of the neck, you want to apply the pros-aide to the skin and allow it to go off. And then you want to stretch the bald cap down and make sure that your actor's head is looking straight ahead so that you don't get any wrinkling on the back of the neck. You can even get them to look up slightly before you apply it, that way you know it's going to be completely tight and you're not going to get any wrinkling. I'm next going to glue around the side of the neck and just below the ear, but I like to stretch the bald cap round to make sure it's nice and taut, and I do this before releasing the ears. So now I know where the placement's going to be. I roll the cap backwards and I apply the glue to the nape of the neck, making sure it meets with the edge that's already tacked down, and then up towards the earlobe, making sure I don't put any in the hair. A little tip when using pros-aide is to make sure there's no visible blobs, as I mentioned earlier. You just want to smooth it onto the skin and then make sure it's quite even in consistency. Otherwise these will be visible under the bald cap and it means that your edges won't be seamless. When I use a hairdryer, I use it on a cool setting and I only do it in short bursts so that it doesn't irritate my model. Once the pros-aide's gone opaque, I then stretch the bald cap past the area that I've glued so it's nice and taut, and then use my other hand to secure the bald cap to the skin. So as you can see, we've got no wrinkling at the neck. At this stage, some people like to release the ears. I like to personally glue down towards the temple area and then I do the ears. So I'm going to repeat the same process that I've done before. I'm using my cotton bud to marry up the glue with the area that's already tacked down to the skin. And then like I said before, we're going to use the cotton bud to smooth out the consistency. And also before it dries, get in towards the seam to make sure there's no blobs in that area either, and then go in with your hairdryer. Stretch the ball cap out, make sure there's no wrinkles, and pull it down over the glue and secure the bond with your finger, pressing that over the ball cap. Next I'm going to release the ears, and I'm going to use some acetone on a cotton bud to melt away the vinyl. So I pull down the vinyl ball cap so I can see where it's going to sit, and then using the cotton bud I work that over the vinyl until it melts whole. Note how I'm doing this in the centre of the ear. The last thing you want to do is melt away too much of the ball cap that you can't stretch it at the back and secure it in place. That's why I prefer to melt it rather than cut it. Then you just want to slip your model's ear through the hole so you can work out how much more of the ball cap you need to melt away. I can see I just need to melt a small amount away underneath the bottom of the earlobe so that it's not stretching and it's more comfortable for my model until I've glued everything in place. So you'll see I've got some wrinkling around the ear, and this is good because it now allows me to go in and apply some glue around the ear, making sure I don't get it on the hair and around the back of the ear. And I'll still have enough of that cap to pull and stretch into place over the glue, and I'll have seams to melt away. If I'd cut away too much at the beginning, then I would struggle to get this in place and be able to melt it so it looks completely seamless into the ears. So here you can see I'm now using acetone on that cotton bud to melt away the edges of the ball cap so that the ear crease is completely seamless. I'm sure you'd agree with me that the melting method rather than the cutting method is definitely easier and more effective. It just gives you that security that you're not going to cut away too much. Now that the ball cap is secure around the top and the back of the ear, we just need to do underneath the earlobe. So I'm repeating the application of the glue and the drying process. Then just stretch the ball cap out so it's nice and taut in line with all your other gluing, and then press it down in place so there's no wrinkling. So now when I stretch the ball cap out, you can see that we just need to glue around this part of the hairline and then we are completely secure. So going back in with our cotton bud and pros-aide, I'm going around Bill's hairline, making sure to meet up with the seams of the previously tacked down ball cap, smoothing out the glue that we've already applied so the consistency is the same all round, and then going over that with the hairdryer until it's completely translucent. And then once again we're going to stretch that ball cap up and out to make sure it's nice and taut, and then press that into place over the glue. You may have noticed I've not glued around the very front of the ear because we don't need to worry about that. We're going to melt the ball cap away. I've made sure that we've glued under the earlobe and around the sideburn, and that's all that needs securing around the ear. So for each section that I glue, I repeat the same process on the opposite side before moving on, and now all that's left to do is to melt away the remaining ball cap. As you'll already know, acetone is what melts away the vinyl ball cap, so we're using that on a cotton bud, and the technique that I'm doing is a rolling motion, and I'm rolling the cotton bud towards Bill's head, so I roll it clockwise. You always want to roll on top of the cap, not under the cap, because you don't want to lift it in any way. By melting it downwards, we're melting it into the skin, creating super fine edges. One of the reasons I love using a vinyl ball cap, other than the fact that it just looks so realistic, is the fact that you don't need to go over it with latex to blend the edges like you do with a latex ball cap. So looking at the seam around the ear, you just wouldn't know that there was a ball cap. Vinyl ball caps are a little bit more expensive than latex, but latex is better used for theatrical use or where the seams aren't as important. For those of you that aren't familiar with using ball caps, the vinyl ball caps are not reusable, and to remove them I always make a hole at the top of the head, split it down the centre parting. As I mentioned earlier, it tears really easily, and I use Telesis Super Solve Plus, which is great for sensitive skin, to remove the pros-aide, or I use Pro Clean. And that is how to apply a vinyl ball cap. If you're intrigued to see the look I went on to create after this tutorial, then stay tuned for my next upload. Or if you're a bit late to the party, then check the description bar to see what I created next. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you missed last week's tutorial, it's on screen for you now. If you'd like to follow me outside of YouTube, my social handles are on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!